Pre-dental to dental school. Pre-dental to dental school. That is the topic of today. Stay tuned as we talk to a pre-dental student that just got not one, not two, not three, but almost like 5 different acceptances to dental school. And he's going to tell you how he did it. Stay tuned. Hey, this is Dr. Darwin, the new dentist coach, with another episode of Ask Dr. Darwin on the New Dentist Podcast Show, where we talk about getting into dental school, surviving dental school, getting into residency, and then life as a new dentist. But today's episode is about getting into dental school, right? Guys, be sure that you are sharing, liking, and also commenting down below. We want to hear back from you about these topics. Hopefully they've been helpful to you and other people that you know, but also share with us and comment on other topics within dentistry that you want to hear about as it relates to getting into dental school, getting into residency as well. That'll be helpful. Also, this episode of Ask Dr. Darwin is being brought to you by Dr. Darwin On Demand. Dr. Darwin On Demand, the ultimate exclusive membership community for new dentists. To find out more information about the weekly and monthly Q&As and also monthly mastermind as well that we have in the community, go to the details down below and check it out. Hope to see you in the community soon. All right, so today we got another success story of getting into dental school, right? Close to 12,000 applications, but only less than 6,000 people actually matriculate and start. So there is a process, there is a way of doing such, and that's what we're going to be talking about today with future student Dr. Bryce Coleman. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you, Dr. Hayes.
No, we're honored that you're sharing your journey with us today. So please just give a brief introduction about where you're from, a little bit about you, for those of us that are meeting you for the first time.
Okay, yeah, of course. So I am from a town in Columbus, Georgia. It's relatively small, but it's been growing. I've been here all my life, just grown up, and it's kind of has that small town feel, and you see people, that you grew up with, and everywhere you go, you'll see somebody that you know. And I've always grown up, kind of in the church. That's always been my thing. My grandfather was a pastor. He's retired now, but now my dad, he's now the senior pastor of my church. And so, I've always been in kind of this church environment here in Columbus. That's a big part of my life and just my upbringing. And just, service. Service has always been a part of, me and my siblings' lives. We've always been giving back to the church with, Christmas plays and just volunteering for different things. And then also just going out and serving our community, our local community. That's always been something that I feel like has been instilled in me, and my father has definitely, taught me about growing up. And I've carried that, everywhere I go. I love helping people. I love, giving back to the less fortunate. And, that's a very big reason of, why I like dentistry so much and why I feel like it is a career for me.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah. And that's a great segue to why dentistry, right? It sounds like
Mhm.
through service to others and giving back and wanting to help other people, dentistry
Mhm.
really does kind of fit kind of like some of those ideologies and how you were raised. What were some of the other reasons why dentistry for you?
Well, yeah, for me, just being a doctor wasn't really anywhere on my radar. I'd say um, going into college, leaving high school, so I wasn't really exactly sure what I wanted to do when or major in. I just knew, it'd be cool one day to be my own boss, be like an entrepreneur, and so I thought I'd go and major in business in Kennesaw before I went. I had one dentist in the family. I had one dentist, an uncle, and that's about it. I never really ever got a chance to shadow him or anything because he's lives in Jacksonville, Florida. So I first got interested in dentistry when I had gotten my braces, taken off. I had braces, and before I got braces, my smile and everything, I didn't really like how it looked. So I think through my ortho treatment, I gained more confidence about my smile and about myself. And I really, liked how my orthodontist was able to do that. And, I thought orthodontics was something I wanted to go into. And so I shadowed her. I liked the fact that, she was her own boss and everything. So it seemed like, that would be that would be something I could do. I was like, oh, yeah, so this is kind of something I'd want to do. I'd want to have my own office, my own business type thing. And so I thought, being an orthodontist was the move. And then she introduced me to her friend, who was, now currently my boss, Dr. Kathy Cook. And Dr. Kathy Cook was actually right down the street. And she was like, yeah, why don't you go shadow her for a couple hours? So I was like, that would be a great thing. I'll go ahead and shadow her. And just what I saw when I went to go shadow Dr. Kathy Cook, this is a few years back, I believe back in 2019, it just completely changed my trajectory from orthodontics to general dentistry. Um, I've seen the dentist, growing up, always going to get my cleanings done and everything, but I never had any special work done. So I always saw the dentist as just someone coming in, checking up on everything, and he go on about his business. But when I saw in Dr. Kathy Cook's office, I saw a lot of people, especially older people, um, with just these, a lot of different conditions, a lot of things going on in their oral health. I saw fear in some of the patients' eyes, and so this is when I really realized, oh, well, people are really scared of the dentist, and I'd never experienced that. And so being able to see her, not only just calm these people, not calm her patients down, but her encouraging her patients, telling them that it'll be all right, and that they had her trust, they had trust in her to bring their oral health back to where it needed to be. And that's when I fell in love with general dentistry, just seeing how she had how she had those patients' best interests in mind, how she was committed to bringing their smile up to par, bringing their oral health up to par, and seeing them through treatments and different treatments and having a plan for it. I thought this was something that I could do, especially to give back to people who maybe aren't taking care of the oral health, or maybe oral health is just not a necessity. It's not something that's just the first thing that they're concerned about. A lot of people just don't have the privilege to have the best toothbrushes, have the best dental care, because dental care is expensive. And so I want to be able to provide my services one day to be able to lower those health care disparities.
Yeah, that's great. Shout out to Dr. Kathy Cook, Columbus, Georgia. She
Mhm.
comes from another generation of a second generation of dentists. Her dad's a dentist. Actually, her dad and my uncle went to Meharry together. They were in
Oh,
school
wow.
together back in the day. So shout out to Dr. Cook for being able to be a beacon and serve as an opportunity for people like yourself to get to have that shadowing experience, which can, as you say, be very transformational
Oh,
in
yeah.
choosing the career or highlighting certain careers or actually disciplines and opportunities within dentistry as well. So
Mhm.
good old Dr. Cook. So hey, so let's talk about uh now that you've made that, when you made that decision, you got to start to apply to school, right? That's
Oh, yeah.
important. So tell us a little bit about when you started the application process and some of the key things that you did as part of that process.
Okay, yeah. So my application process is definitely a little non-traditional. I didn't go directly into dental school after, finishing my senior year of college. I had, graduated and basically am taking 2.5 gap years. The first time I was planning on applying was a semester, um, was last year. And so the reason I put it off was just because I felt like I really wanted to strengthen my application, and I was, having a really, I had a really full semester that last spring with, biochem and a whole bunch of other rigorous science courses, and so I felt like I wanted to finish my undergrad off strong, take that time to either do more shadowing, more volunteer work, or potentially get a job in the dental field and just get that experience, and overall make myself a competitive applicant. Because the thing I wanted to do is I wanted to apply as my best self. I didn't want to just apply just to see, oh, where I get picked up. I wanted to really, apply when I felt like I was ready, when I felt like my application was ready. And I think that was a big part of it. And after I graduated back in December 2020, I immediately started on my personal statement. I immediately started, contacting my professors, already getting ready for that next application cycle, which started this past June. And so I just wanted to make sure I had everything um, in order. I had everything, at the time that I wanted to apply super early. So I was going to make sure, even though my teachers couldn't submit, I was reminding them every other month, hey, just remind you, the application process opens up, June 1st. So I gave them the day, and, that was giving them plenty of time to get my, letters of recommendation in and everything. Had plenty of time to get my transcripts and everything in. And so, yeah, I just really liked the fact that I took that time off to just work on my application process, because I was able to get everything in without dealing with chaos and just trying to cram everything in at once. And so that really helped me in being able to form a great personal statement. I had plenty of time to just get a lot of feedback and editing from mentors and people that I have been through the process recently, and dentists who just graduated recently, and they gave their 2 cents on what I could do better in the personal statement, stuff like that. So that's how I really went about my application process. I basically started last December.
Last December. But you
Mhm.
also had, you had already prepared to start in December before December. Really.
Oh yes, of course,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah, yeah. Now, one of the parts of the application that people always kind of dread and get hung up on is the DAT, right?
Oh yeah, oh
Dental
yeah.
admissions test. Share with us your preparation and how you attacked this important test, especially as a business major and a non-science major like myself as well. How
Mhm.
did you attack getting prepared for taking the DAT?
Yeah, so the DAT, there's so many sources that people, have today. I know there's definitely been some new ones, even ever since I took it. I took it my second attempt last September. The first time I took it was, it was, it was kind of like a, trial and error, just see how it would go. Which I wouldn't recommend, because this is a this is a pretty expensive test. I definitely recommend preparing your best to take it and do well the first time if you can. But the first time I was studying from multiple sources, including boot camp. I was using AP Bio Cliff Notes, which is like a little AP biology book that a lot of dental students, were recommending. I saw YouTube videos, and basically you just read through the book and answer the practice questions and stuff. And so I was using these multiple sources, but the first time I took it, I was also taking classes, and it was kind of
Yeah,
like a full load of classes. And you know, I try to I try to justify it, because it was some of the classes I were taking, were on the DAT, like organic chemistry. And so, but it's just something about studying, for a class and studying for the DAT that is just kind of different. And so I didn't feel like my studying for the class was helping me too much more for the DAT. And so it was kind of hard. It was kind of hard to also stay on a schedule with just classes and also stay motivated, because you get burnt out, studying for that hard test and then also studying for the classes that you also have to do well in.
yeah, it's a heavy load.
So
So it can be a
yeah,
heavy load, right?
yes, it's a very heavy load. And so yeah, so my first attempt wasn't the scores that I was looking for. I knew I was gonna have to take it again. And so I waited to take it after I'd have another break. So that was last summer. I had time to just study for the test, because I was basically done with my undergrad. I had like one or two classes to take in the fall. So I was going to take that summer break to really prepare for the test. And I had a schedule where I'd study 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours in the evening, and kind of give me that gap to, relax and just take the time off from studying. But, I'd go right back at it towards the evening or late afternoon. And so I did about 8 hours a day, for 3 months. And this time around, I only used boot camp. I didn't want to use, I just felt like using too many sources was just not too helpful because I was trying to get a good feeling of what the actual test would be like. And from my experience the first time, I remember some of those questions on the DAT, they were very similar to boot camp, if not easier in some subjects. Because boot camp does a really, I feel like boot camp just does a really good job of having questions that are really similar to the DAT. They really, you know, prepare you for the DAT. And most people I've seen give feedback, they have amazing scores and they said they've only used boot camp. And so I was sold on just saying, yeah, I'm just going to use boot camp this first time. And so I really just used boot camp and I practiced the most the sections that I didn't do the best on. And that was my QR, my quantitative reasoning section, my biology section, and then also my Gen Chem section. I really studied on in Gen Chem, went over the chapters like twice, did all the practice questions twice, and just really put my time and effort into both those sections. And I saw a pretty dramatic increase in those sections grades on my DAT. So I definitely think boot camp helped really prepare me to do well and get a pretty good competitive score. And I really wouldn't change much going back to studying for that, doing it
Yeah,
that way. Mhm.
that's great, man. Yeah, I would tell you, like yourself, everything is those tools can be different for candidates, right? Every candidate likes,
Yeah.
one or two of those programs, boot camp, Kaplan, and I mean, there's a lot of them that are very helpful. But some people will do a combination of several ones for certain sections, or like
Mhm.
yourself, find an all in one that works that fits best for them. Because I get that all the time. What's the best way to study for it? What prep course is the best? And
Mhm.
I always say, well, the best one is the one that you like and you get the feedback that gets you best prepared, meaning it's going to be different for everybody, right?
Right.
And so, shout out to Boot Camp. They are not a sponsor of the video, but they are one of several prep courses that are there that people have had some really good success and improving their scores and getting themselves prepared for the DAT. So glad to hear that you
Oh yeah.
kind of figured that out and went from one score to a significantly higher score uh,
Mhm.
using that platform, but also, and I think people need to understand this, having more time that's dedicated to preparing for the exam, not
Yes.
having competing things going on, aka I'm taking classes for undergrad. I got things I got to finish for my degree, but I'm also studying for the DAT at the same time. And like
Mhm.
you've demonstrated, you spend 8 hours a day, 4 in the morning, 4 in the evening. That's a full time job. You still got to sleep, you got to rest, you got to do some R&R, you got to do some personal care, and if you've
Yep.
got classes, regular school classes at the same time, it could be a challenge, and that's one of the reasons some people will take a gap year to prepare their application, but also prepare for doing exceedingly well on the DAT. So,
Oh,
not something to skip over, guys. Taking the time to prepare for the DAT so that you get your best score the first or the second time out. Very key. Very key.
yes.
So you took your DAT, and I'm sure before that you had a couple of schools that you were kind of had your eye on, trying to thinking about. Tell us a
Oh
little bit
yeah.
about the number of schools that you applied to, and maybe why some of those schools.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so I applied to 9 schools. It's funny, I thought that was a kind of an odd number, but it seems like it was the magic number amongst other people I asked. They also applied to 9 schools. But I applied to Augusta, of course, because that was my home school in Georgia. And so I've been to the school a few times. I did Impressions Day at Augusta at DCG. And so I fell in love the first time I visited the school and the facilities and just seeing the staff. I was like, I could see myself at the school.
Miss
And so I,
Perry, Miss Stephanie Perry, right? Did you meet Miss
yes,
Perry?
yes, yes, I
Yeah.
have.
Good,
She's
good,
awesome.
good.
Oh yeah. And so I just thought, from that moment on, I was like, yeah, this is the school I want to go to. So it was my number one choice at that time. And then I also applied to Meharry and Howard. Meharry definitely, my boss, Dr. Cook, shout out to her, definitely had a influence on me applying to that school because that is her alma mater. And, just having that, kind of that HBCU experience in dental school, I thought was something that would be pretty unique, well, pretty cool, because I know I've always gone to, predominantly white institutions. And so I'm from Kennesaw. I came from coming from Kennesaw State, to an HBCU. I think it'd be cool to kind of have that, that support group of people of my color in dental school. And same thing with Howard. And so I also applied to Ohio State and Boston and Tufts. Those are kind of like, schools I was kind of just came across on YouTube, saw, that students went there. I kind of just wanted to go out and apply. And then Boston and Tufts, I knew my GPA isn't like a super high one, so I knew that their average GPA was a little on the lower side. So I thought that'd be a good little backup school, in case I couldn't get into my other choices. And so that's why I applied to both those two Boston schools. And then Virginia Commonwealth and University of Michigan, I was influenced by my one of my mentors, Dr. Jordan Brunson, who is a Michigan grad, and then he also
Yeah,
has, yeah,
Jordan.
and then and then he also has introduced me to another person at VCU and told me about that school, and so I went ahead and applied to both of those schools as well. Virginia Commonwealth.
Yeah, all those schools, we got some great networking individuals there. Michigan's got Dr. Todd Esther, and you mentioned Jordan
Yes.
Bruston. VCU, you got Dr. Carlos Smith, who's Assistant Dean of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. A couple other people that are down there. BU, you've got Dr. Granum, who's there.
Mhm.
He's on the admissions committee. Tufts, you've got Dr. Holloway, and you just got a lot of students. Very diverse school with a lot of students that look like us. In addition to that, Ohio State, HU, Meharry, and Augusta. So great list of
Mhm.
schools, man. Great list of
Thank you.
schools. So let's
Thank
talk
you.
about the interviews because usually that's the reason why you do all the hard work and getting your application together so that you can get ready for the interviews. Tell us a little bit about the number of interviews that you got and any questions that were maybe unusual or maybe more specific to one school than another.
Oh yeah, definitely. I got six interviews. It was from Augusta, Howard, Virginia Commonwealth, University of Michigan, and then Ohio State. And so Augusta was my first interview, and I was, of course, the most nervous about that one because I was like, wow, that's the first interview, and that's the school that I'm, most sold on. So I was pretty nervous about that one coming up. And the students give you the rundown. So what they had was they had a 2-day interview thing. So I went up to Augusta, I want to say for a Monday, yeah, on a Sunday night. And so Sunday night was the meet and greet. We got to talk to some of the current students, be able to ask any questions to the students about the school and about what tomorrow was going to be like. Because the next day was the actual interview. And so that was the actual interview the next day. And so that next day, what we did was it was still more of the same. We got to talk to some of the deans, some of the staff, and they were talking to us about the school, kind of like that was their day to kind of sell us on the school and why, they want us. And so that kind of takes off a heavy load because you also another a thing to consider and to take off that pressure because I know going to my first interview, I had a lot of pressure just trying to, put on my best self and make sure they notice me and stuff. Also remember that they want you. So they chose you for the interview. So they want you to go to their school. And so they're going to do everything they can to sell you on their school. And so,
That's right.
that kind of helped me, relax a little bit and just realize, that, I deserve to be here. I put in the work and, let me just tell them my story. And Augusta had a two-part interview, two 30-minute interviews.
Hmm.
My first one, it was really laid back. Both of them were really laid back. It was nothing out of the ordinary. The first one, the doctor, he was in a residency program for peds, and he was just asking me, stuff about my application, my volunteer experiences that stood out to him. He asked
Hmm.
me about them, and so I just explained to him, and everything. And one question he did ask me, that kind of, well, I wouldn't say really threw me off guard, but it was a unique question. It was, what is my greatest fear? And so, I really had to think about that because I didn't prepare for that question. What is my greatest fear? And so I just, I sat there and prepared, and I said, "Excuse me, can I take a moment to answer the question?" And he said, "Of course." And so, yeah, so that was probably the most unique question I got out of him. The next interview, it was more of the same. The key questions they asked is why dentistry, why DCG, Dental College
Right.
of Georgia,
Right.
and then also, um, tell me about yourself. The
Yep.
tell me about yourself question is the number one question that you want to make sure you have in your head that you know how to answer to anybody. I think it definitely needs to be the one that is, it doesn't, nothing needs to sound rehearsed, but that needs to be the one that you have already figured out.
It's got to be
Telling them about
solid.
stuff.
It's got to be solid. And some of that answer is not what you've already have shared in your application as well.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
something a little bit different or some additional things about you that are not in your application as well,
Oh yeah, yeah.
that make you unique. That's
Yes,
great.
yes.
That's great.
And yeah, and another question they'll ask, is there anything on this, about you that you want to tell us about that's not on your application? Just like Dr.
Yep.
Lisa said. And so
Yep.
you
There it
should
is.
also, yeah, you should also have just a little something that you want to say about yourself that you know is not on your application, and just share it with them. And they also ask, is there any questions you want to ask me? And so you're feel free to have a few questions to ask
Yeah,
them,
you gotta
definitely.
ask those questions. That's
Oh
right.
yeah,
Do not
yeah,
say,
because
no, I don't have any questions. That means you know it all. And that's not what
hmm
you're trying to convey. So, yeah, you must, as a candidate, you must have at least two or three questions.
Oh yeah, definitely. You want to make sure you seem that you're really interested in the school and that that you are always willing to learn. And so those are the type of people they're looking for. They're not looking for the know-it-alls that
That's
think
right.
they, got it all figured out. So,
So good. So that's good.
hmm
Yeah, that interview is the last opportunity to make it the first best impression face to face or virtually. Because after
yes.
that, that's it. There is no second, third, or fourth interview. That's it.
Oh yeah.
And then you've gotta kind of wait and wait and wait until you hear back from them. And then when you hear back from them, uh, you have to make some decisions as to your schools that you're really interested in. So let's talk a little
hmm
bit about your thought process, what it's been, and how it's going to continue as you are getting these acceptances coming in, some as early as December. And
hmm
for some candidates, they may still get some come March and April because many schools are kind of like rolling admissions for a good 4 months or even 5 months. So
Oh yeah.
share with us a little bit about uh, how you're going to decide what schools what school you're going to ultimately and want to attend, and share with us if you want also any decisions you've made about any acceptances as well.
Okay, yeah. I can definitely share how, I'm going through the process, how I went through the process. So, luckily for me, I received news from all the schools that I have applied to around December 1st. Most of them were on December 1st, and most of them were a little bit after. I got my first email at 12 o'clock a.m. from Howard, and they said that we're happy to announce that, we're offering you a position in the class of 2026. And so I got the first email from them. And then trying to think who was next. I believe Augusta was, no, Virginia. Virginia was next. They also sent an email. They sent it while I was at work. I was checking my phone. Dr. Cook was letting me check my phone in the morning. And then, the moment we were all waiting for was Augusta. And so they called me. at around 8:10, I believe, on that December 1st day, and it was a call from Dr. Perry. I mean Miss Perry. And so yeah, I already knew what it was about because they said that
Yes,
they would call
yes.
they
When
would
you hear
call
from
the
her, it's usually a thumbs up.
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
All right,
And
that's
so,
three. That's three out of the
yep.
six so far that you had interviews. What else? Anything else?
Yeah, and then I got a call a little bit later from the University of Michigan. They called me, Dr. Todd Esther himself called me, congratulate me on the acceptance. And, I was
Yes,
super hype about that one too, because,
yes,
the University of Michigan is another school that kind of, really interested me, and piqued my interest when I went through the interview and, kind of saw the facilities and just the program itself. I felt like it was a good fit too. And so, yeah, those were the four acceptances I received. The other two I heard from a little bit later, but I was waitlisted at Ohio and
hmm
oh, I don't think I said Florida. I left that school out. But University of Florida was another school I had applied to and interviewed at. And so I got waitlisted at University of Florida and the Ohio State. And so going through the application, knowing the schools that I had gotten accepted to, I kind of just looked at, I weighed the things that were most important to me, and honestly, cost is a big portion and is a big decision in the school you want to go to. Looking at, VCU, I really love VCU. VCU was the other school. I got to go in person to Augusta and VCU, and I really thought I was sold on VCU because I loved going to the school. I loved meeting the students. I've talked with, they had like a little SNDA dinner before the actual interview, and I interacted with some of the students. They seemed really nice, and they really seemed like they enjoyed the school. And so I thought that was, what I was more so leaning towards. And then, but I kind of had to weigh it out because the cost of the school was pretty expensive. VCU was a pretty expensive school, and I kind of just said, I think I kind of want to take that into consideration, when going to the school for 4 years because it is a big commitment. It is
yes,
a big commitment, both for time and money, money wise.
yes.
So at that point, I kind of weighed it down I put it down to Howard, Michigan, and Augusta. And I think Howard was I felt like Howard was a really good school, really good program fit for me. But one thing that kind of concerned me is that the first year they said that they told me that they only focused on didactics, and then you get into like lab and hand skills the second year. And just from, what I heard from most other schools, getting started on your hand skills is a part of the, curriculum. And so you start that basically the first week, and like Augusta and like other schools that I've interviewed at. And
Yeah,
so I just know how important hand skills are for me, because I do want to be a practicing dentist, and I want all the practice and preparation I can before I go out into this field. So I thought starting, I wanted to go to a school that would, start me off on that off the rip, just throwing me out there, And so it came down to Augusta and Michigan. And, Augusta is a great school. It had a great program. Um, and I had been following them for some time. So I thought it was be a great fit. I already knew several people who went there from my university, from Kennesaw State. And
yep,
so I just thought
yep.
it would be a really great fit for me. Um, but the thing about Augusta, and also it was going to be a cheaper option than Michigan. But I thought, I had so much time to, think about this process. And money was definitely is a big factor in making this decision. But also, I wanted to think about what experience I would get somewhere else, being able to go out of, my state of Georgia for the first time. And so I thought University of Michigan was a good way to do that, and be able to go to another university. And also, just the Michigan name, it just holds so much weight to it, to go to that school. And I thought that would be an amazing opportunity for me. I have an old high school classmate who goes to that school, and they just thought, and they told me why they chose that school, and how, being able to be taught by, some professors who are really, they are really knowledgeable in their field, because they're also doing research. I mean, it's a big research school,
It is, yes.
which is something that, it kind of intrigues me to be able to go out and do some, and, add to the field of dentistry and not just learn from it, but, add to it and help grow the dental field. Just the opportunities that being able to go to that school and going, you know, out a little bit out of my comfort zone, is
Yep.
something that I felt like I needed and I wanted to experience. And so, yeah, I'm very happy to announce that I made that decision, and I will be going to the University of Michigan come June 2022.
All right, all right. Congratulations, congratulations. A
Thank you,
Wolverine
thank you.
coming to Ann Arbor. Going to be in Wolverine. Well, man, congratulations, man. Great choice. Thanks for sharing like your process of making that decision. Again,
Oh yeah,
it's going to be different for different people, but that decision is definitely a great one. Dr. Esther, his team, the SNDA, the other student organizations that are there. Great choice, man. Great choice.
thank
Um,
you, thank you.
so excited to continue to hear about your journey through D1 all the way through D4 for the class of 2026. So
Oh yeah.
that's great, man. That's great. Well, I know everything has not been easy. It's not been great during this process, and you've probably have had some, some tough times to get to this point where you can say, I've got into, four schools and this is where I'm going. Share with us just
Mhm.
real briefly what you thought has been the hardest part about this process.
Yeah. So I think the hardest part about this process, for me was the DAT was definitely a hard part about this process, and just mustering up that that willpower to take it again, because I was kind of not, I want to say dreading, but I was kind of dreading having to take it again because I knew I had to go through it all again, and it can be a lot. I'm thankful that I only had to take it twice, but I know some people, some real troopers out there that had to go ahead and take it 3, 4 times. And so, it's a big part of the application process because that's the one thing that needs to be that's the one thing that needs to look good. I feel like GPA when it comes to applying to dental school is very important. But there's so many things you can do, that can make you that can make you a competitive applicant. There's so many things you can, leadership experiences, volunteer experiences, so many things that can make up for a GPA on the lower side. But the DAT is just, you got to have that, that right score, that 20 and up, that just looks good, for the college applications. And so that can really be the hardest process for this. And I think it was some times where I was definitely just feeling drained and overworked, even when I was just focusing on the DAT. And I think, a large part of that is because, I did kind of just put my all and focus into that, and I didn't take the time to go out and, like that. So sometimes I had to force myself to go and do that self-care and get away from the computer and, go run or go
Yep.
hang out with friends or something. And so it's important to kind of balance that during that process so you just don't feel overworked.
Yeah, because it's a
And
process. I mean, for you, like you said, 8 hours a day for
oh
three
yeah,
months or a couple. I forget how. I think it was 3 months. You said that's a full
yes, three
time
months. Yeah,
job, man. That's a full time job,
exactly,
brother. So you're gonna be
exactly.
drained. Yeah, you're gonna be feel overworked. You gotta have that balance. And guess what? Preparing for the DAT is just really a preparation for dental school because you ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh yeah. I already know. I already know.
And that's no matter what school you go to.
That's
When
true.
you start first day, first semester, D1, it's like, you a baby again. You starting all over again. I don't care if you're a bio major, physics major, nutrition major, engineer, don't make a difference. Everybody's kind of
Oh
like
yeah.
starting uh on the same level, on ground zero.
Yep.
So this was some good indoctrination studying and making having the DAT be a challenging thing. So now what to expect coming up in the future. Tips, advice
Def-
for future applicants, future
Oh yeah.
pre-dental students that are applying to dental school as well. Give us a couple tips that you would share with them, knowing that what you know now.
Oh yeah. So I have a few tips. Just knowing what I know now, to put yourself in the best position possible. I think it's one, do as much shadowing as possible. Do as much shadowing as you possibly can. I know that different schools have different, set required hours. Some have 50, some have 70, some have, 300. But I think, the way you should go about it is just to do as much as possible from the very beginning, from freshman year to your senior year. Because one, it's hard to get in a lot of those hours when you're trying to do them, all in one year, and so I think just being able to spread it out throughout your 4 years in undergrad is best. I didn't do too much shadowing in my first 2 years, and so I really had to play catch up on my shadowing hours. But also just shadowing in general, I think you would want to get as much experience as possible, because this is 4 years of your life, that you're going to be spending doing, putting in all this time and effort to become a doctor. But then, being a doctor is that's your career, and so you want to make sure that this is the career, that a dentist goes through, everything that a dentist does, and so you want to make sure that this is the career for you, because you don't want to, have regrets once going into. You got to have that why, in dental school. I hear that all the time, because I already know that dental school is going to push me, and it pushes everybody to the end, but they have to have that why. And if you don't have that why, it's hard to stay in. It's really hard to stay in and finish. So, that's why I recommend doing as much shadowing as possible. Another thing, if you know you have a full semester of classes, challenging courses, finding a person, I know a lot of people say find a study group, find a study group. Finding a study group is fine, but it's definitely important to make sure that study group is, you know, just as determined as you, and is, diligent and also hardworking. And so what I like to say is find a person in that class that is successful, with their study habits, successful with their, test taking, and figure out, how, what helps them, what helps prepare them for tests. That's what I did, because I'm not, I'm just not a genius when it comes to, studying for tests. I have to study, I have to, go over my notes and repetition, and to do well. I feel like that's, most of us, we definitely have to work hard, in order to get good grades. And so I think, I wouldn't just say find a smart person, find a person that is successful in their studying. And that's what I did. My pre-dental club president, she was, I just knew she had great grades, and she always seemed like she had no worries. And so just, kind of spending time studying with her, figuring out, how she prepared for a test, it kind of helped me bring some of that into my studying. And it helped tremendously with just my, confidence in test taking, and just, once I know I've studied that material, I've worked on it, I'm confident to take that test. And so I
Did
recommend
she get
doing that
into
for myself.
did she get into dental school too?
Oh yeah, she did. She got in. She's a D1 currently at
Okay,
Augusta. So
at
yeah.
Augusta. Gotcha, gotcha.
hmm
All right. So finding a successful study partner. What else? What? Give us one last tip for those
Okay.
pre-dental students.
Okay. I would say make a make a list. Okay, so if you know you want to go into dentistry, no matter where you are, you could be working a job, you already be kind of like well into your life, and you'd be going back to take some undergrad classes, or maybe you're a freshman in college. But I'd say make a vision board or whiteboard, and list step by step process of how you're going to get into dental school. I think that's something I didn't do my freshman year of college going into this. And it kind of, I kind of, I had some pretty good grades, but I wasn't really working on, my dental school application, because working on your dental school application starts, your very first year in college. You add in those experiences, those, shadowing hours, all that. And so I didn't really have a good clue of what it was going to take to get into dental school until I talked to Dr. Brunson, and he was kind of nailing me and telling me, all right, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. And I'm just sitting here like, oh, I haven't done any of that. I haven't done any of that yet. And so that was really kind of what grilled me into thinking, okay, yeah, if you're going to be a dentist, if you're going to go to dental school, how are you going to get there? And so just making a list of each step, what you need to do and having that to look at every day, I think can even be a motivator to get to where you need to be. And so I would say go ahead and make that list, figure out everything you need to do by asking, pre-dents like me or people who are, dentists themselves, what they did. And so just go ahead and make a list and note of everything you need to do in order to get into dental school on time or whenever you know you want to get in. So yeah.
Yeah, that pathway, right? The only way through is knowing what step you must take every part of the way. And so it's almost like you reverse engineer it. You start with, all right, dental school, University of Michigan, and then you go backwards, right? Like a reverse
Hmm.
engineering. You go backwards and figure out what those steps are till you get to the last step, which is now your first step. So now you already got
Hmm.
it all mapped out to go to. That's some great
Exactly.
advice, man. Well,
Thank you.
I tell you, man, you in good hands at Michigan. Made some great choices, and you shared some great tips and advice, and that you used to help you be successful along this journey. And I'm so proud, so happy for you and your family and your mentors, Dr. Brunson and Dr. Cook, and you're gonna have a whole bunch of more coming up to add to your plate at Michigan as well with Dr. Todd Esther and all the other faculty there as well. And we definitely want to continue to follow you as you not only now that you've gotten into dental school, but now you've got to get through.
Oh yeah.
Got to get through. So we definitely want to follow you. But thanks so much for sharing your story, guys. Check out the rest of these videos right here. Hopefully these will help you as well. And that's our time. Love, peace, and smiles. We'll see you guys on the next video.